It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Hi, Dave Despain with MAV TV, which is your television destination if you're looking for motorsports. Radio, you found it. You're listening to The Front Stretch.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced white-knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. Get over to Joe's Karting today and do yourself right with a little fast-paced white-knuckle racing just across the river, again, on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. Get more information about hours, pricing, and group events at joeskarting.com, Joe's Karting with a K.com. Just pulling up the penalty report from Pocono, as we're going to do, as always, in turn number one, recap the race that was the previous weekend. We were at the Tricky Triangle for a Sunday afternoon race. Coming up in turn number two, Terry McCarl, T-Mac Terry McCarl, will join us to preview the Knoxville Nationals, the 410 versions, the Big Daddy, the one that we'll be at on Saturday night, and then we'll be recapping on Sunday morning. But Terry is going to get us a preview coming up here just a little bit, and he'll also talk about his front row challenge coming up tomorrow. Turn number three, we will recap some news and notes throughout the NASCAR area. It's been a long time since we've really sat down and dedicated a turn to that, so I figured let's do that this weekend. We talked about having Stu Snyder on the show. Unfortunately, Stu wasn't available because of a big race weekend, so we're going to push him back another week or two, but we're going to have Stu on here in just a couple of weeks. So turn number three is going to be breaking down some of the news and notes, including the penalties, including some of these things that we learned over at Iowa Speedway. We'll get more time to kind of sit down and discuss them and get you guys up in the know. And then in turn number four, we will preview today's race at Watkins Glen, one of my favorite races of the year because we don't just turn left, boys and girls. We do a little bit of right-hand turning, quite a bit of braking, and a little bit of moving people out of the way, which every NASCAR fan loves.
More right-hand than left-hand at this track.
Let's talk about the Pocono results. What a great finish. What a great couple of last end of the race. And
except for Bubba Wallace.
Holy cow, was that hard. And did he have the post-race interview of the year?
Well, I've seen those hits without the safer barrier for a few people. So.
Did you see the picture that Dave Moody posted about him breaking the actual concrete wall?
Oh, yeah.
Where he came down from his perch when he calls that race. He came down and the concrete wall that the safer barrier pushes against actually fractured. So they're going to have to cut that out and replace it. And that's just crazy. I mean, that's a big impact.
Well, like I said, if he hadn't had the safer barrier, he might not be with us. So.
Oh, no kidding.
I mean, there's a few guys that crashed there before the safer barrier. That one of them, Bobby Allison, I think that one ended his career.
Wow. So. Did he have the post-race comment of the year though?
Which one?
Did you hear it?
The whole interview was good.
It was an awesome interview. He was getting the word out to his mom and apparently his girlfriend that he's okay. But the best part was when he said they gave me an ultrasound, everything came out fine, no twins. Yeah. I busted out laughing. I literally LOL'd, and Sarah thought something was wrong with me. But I'm just rolling laughing, and I had to rewind it and play it back for her, and she goes, I think that might be my new favorite driver. She's hunting around trying to figure out which one of these young guns is going to be her favorite, and Bubba took a big leap towards winning that vote.
Yeah, well, when he also said, well, why'd you take so long taking the window net down? Well, I really didn't think about it.
Yeah, he said the safety crew gave him a hard time because he didn't drop that window net. And, I was really worried because when the booth announcers aren't saying anything, you know when they're just filling time and they're talking about something, but when they don't say anything, they're worried. And if they're worried, you better get worried real quick. And when that window net dropped, and Rick Allen said that is the greatest sight in automotive. He's absolutely right. That was the greatest sight in auto racing is when that window net drops.
But I don't know why they didn't just let everybody relax a little bit when he did get out of the car and he sat down. Mm-hmm. These guys, I mean, he had the wind knocked out of him till next week.
Yeah.
God, and that's basically all that was, Mm-hmm. So, but, they need to say that, the wind's knocked out of him. He's probably going to take a seat, which he did.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what happened. I mean, the rib protection and everything they got in those cars is some very serious stuff. And when you smack your body into that, it'll take the wind right out of you.
And you're going to be sore for a couple of days after that.
Oh, yeah, he's probably still feeling it today.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Kyle Busch ends up getting the win, but boy, was all of NASCAR Nation pulling for Daniel Suarez, Alex Bowman, and Eric Jones, trying to wrestle that win away from Kyle Busch. And I got so frustrated because I understand what Eric Jones was doing, but he won that race for Kyle Busch. Now, whether Daniel would have been able to do anything, but Daniel had the best shot on that final restart, and when Eric went 3 wide and Kyle was able to pull away on the top side, Daniel had to lift a little bit to not make contact and to get his car just right, and that gave the win to Kyle.
Yep, pretty much.
Chase Elliott ends up winning stage 1. Kevin Harvick wins stage 2. And he talked about it post-race. He was an up-and-down kind of a guy. Not a good and a bad kind of a guy, but he started from the back, made his way to the front, got sent back to the back, and made his way back up to finish 4th. So a good run for him, and he recovered on a points day. I was really worried with those guys that had to go to the back not getting stage 1 points, which is big difference nowadays. You've got to be up there consistently all race long, or you're going to have a bad points day. And points days, as much as fans hate to talk about them, they're an aspect of this series and of this championship, as they always have been.
When you were a dominant car like Harvick had, and rocked and rolled, I mean, that track gets so spread out that you can just take a car or 2 or 3 a lap and just run up front. But, again, they didn't start all the way at the back. He started out at the 29th position, but I think he was in the top 15 like in 5 laps.
Yeah, he was moving. And those are tough ones because Kyle Busch even said Kevin Harvick had the best car today. He was the fastest car. We were the second best, and Daniel Suarez was the third best.
Yeah, that's probably right. Eric Jones was real consistent, but he opted to do the pit stop, at the end of the first stage to try and help him in the second stage. And he did the same thing in the second stage, instead of racing. He was a top 5 car, which is where he ended up, but he got no stage points because of what I consider a silly strategy, but he's already in the playoffs, so he was just going for a win, where if he could have tried to race to win the segment, and got the playoff point, I think would have been smarter in this case.
Right, absolutely. Bad day for Brad Keselowski. Did you pick Brad Keselowski?
No, I picked Mr. Eric Jones.
Neither did I. I wonder what happened there.
Probably my brother.
Brad finished 7th in stage 1, 7th in stage 2. Ended up finishing 38th on the day. Got home 9 points. He was involved in an accident early in the race. So he was not able to, or not early in the race, but midway through the race. So he finished 38th on the day. Bubba Wallace, after that hard impact late in the race, finished 33rd. Casey Kane, 30th. And that, Joey Logano, 26th. Eric Almirola, 25th. Larson, 23rd. Bad day for Kyle Larson. Didn't finish in the top 10. Finished 5th in stage 2. So he got a couple of points off of the stage finishes. But other than that, your top 10, Denny Hamlin finished in that 10th spot. Kurt Busch 9th, Ryan Newman 8th, Chase Elliott 7th, William Byron 6th, Eric Jones in the top 5, Kevin Harvick 4th, Alex Bowman 3rd, Daniel Suarez 2nd, and Kyle Busch gets the win on the year, and I think that is his sixth race win, 5th stage win. He has 35 playoff points going into the playoffs. When they start here in a couple of weeks, Kevin Harvick has 33 playoff points and Martin Truex Jr. 26 playoff points. The point winner on the day would have been Kevin Harvick at 52 points, but on Wednesday, and as we talked about Sunday morning during the show, there was likely that Kevin Harvick and Casey Kane were going to get hit with penalties. NASCAR confirmed it on Wednesday. They were both hit with the loss of 10 driver points and 10 owner points for a vehicle failed to pass inspection multiple times. NASCAR's getting a little fussy with that. They're getting sick and tired of these guys going through multiple times, tweaking on the car, not getting it right. They're just as frustrated with the drivers as the fans are. So now they're starting to levy actual points penalties against these guys.
Well, on the plus side, though, we were curious as to what it was for the laser inspection station for Harvick, and it obviously wasn't the back window.
No,
because that penalty would have been
much more severe.
What it is. And again, it doesn't make any difference at this point.
That's the unfortunate point. This penalty hurts Casey Kane more than it hurts Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick didn't lose any playoff points. He didn't lose any stage points. He just simply lost owner and championship driver points, which when we come into the first race of the playoffs, doesn't mean anything. Now, if NASCAR was to really get serious about this and start penalizing these top guys, playoff points, that would send a message real quick.
Yeah, it would.
Absolutely, because Kevin Harvick is sitting second in the playoff rankings. If he was to get hit with 10 playoff points, he would fall down. Now, he would only fall to third, but that would put him in a much stronger disadvantage to Kyle Busch and and Martin Truex Jr., who
once the playoffs started.
Correct.
But they're penalizing him now instead of in 6-8 weeks.
Absolutely. And I think that's something we need to look at, because I think there is a little bit of a gravitas where these top teams that have won so much, Martin Truex Jr. last year and a little bit this year, Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick this year, they can afford to get penalties, especially point-only penalties, because quite frankly, it doesn't really mean much.
Well, but also losing the car chief and stuff like that for a couple days
for that race, because they were ejected from the track. That was Kevin Harvick and Casey Kane's car chiefs were both ejected from the track on Sunday for the cars failing multiple times to pass inspection.
Now, again, that's something that probably hurt Casey Kane with the lesser of a team than what it actually hurt Harvick.
Absolutely, Casey Kane is currently sitting 27th in the points. So, quite frankly, Casey's probably not getting in unless he irks a win out here coming up. Maybe he gets it at Indy's Indy's the last race before the playoffs. So he was the one that snuck the win away, but that was when he was in the 5 car at Hendrick. And that car, he's not in that car anymore. He's with the 95 team. And so he's sitting in 27th. He is still within that window that if he were to get a win, he would still qualify for the playoffs. Yeah. If he falls outside of the top 30, that win doesn't matter for him.
Well, as a full-time team, I mean, I don't know how you can, and a decent team. It's not like they're the bottom-tier guys, and not running new tires and stuff like that. To fall out of the top 30, he's got to have 50, 60, 70 points on that spot.
So he's about a full race in front of 30th.
Yeah, he's over a full race. He's 72 points ahead.
All right, that's going to do it for us for turn number 1. That was the Pocono recap. Again, Kyle Busch ends up getting the win, extends his points lead with 6 race wins, 5 stage wins, and 35 playoff points going into the playoffs. We've got, 5 more races. Counting today at Watkins Glen, we've got 5 races until the playoffs are completed. And looking at the season-long contest, the Crewman for a Day, the season-long contest presented by Rick Havenridge. You know how we were talking about how they were just walking away with it, our points leader? That's not the case anymore. It's now tied.
Well, they probably had to take some lesser drivers to, save some guys. They probably know that they're in the playoffs, so they're probably saving a few picks for the playoffs, which is what I tried to do last year, but I was doing it for the 30th.
Yeah, I jumped up into 36th. I don't know how that happened. I've had a bad couple of weeks, but somehow other people have had worse. I don't know how that's a possibility, but it is. A side note before we end up turn number 1, like we kind of talked about, Kevin Harvick and Casey Kane both hit with a 10-point penalty. Anybody that took Kevin Harvick and Casey Kane will receive that 10-point penalty as a part of taking them at Pocono. So that's kind of the risk you take with these guys. If you take a driver that gets a points penalty for that race weekend, you will also receive that penalty, and the website automatically tallies that in. So you will only get awarded the amount of points that they won minus the 10-point penalty.
Yeah, and I mean, for Kevin Harvick, that still puts you at 42 points for the weekend, which is still solid.
Right, absolutely. That's going to do it for us in turn number 1. Terry McCarl will be around the corner in turn number 2, where we'll talk the 410 Nationals at Knoxville and the Front Row Challenge that he organizes every year, a big charity event. And then in turn number 3, we'll talk a couple of the NASCAR news and notes. Turn number 4, we'll preview today's race at Watkins Glen. We'll be back here on the Front Stretch.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Hi, I'm Huston O'Neill, driver of the number 71, Dyno 1 Peak Antifreeze Motor Oil Club 29 race car, and you're listening to the Front Stretch.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch, heading into turn number 2, and it's time to talk to the native from Altoona, Iowa. Races the 24 car, the sprint car throughout the Midwest. T-Mac Terry McCarl, how you doing, bud?
Doing really good.
Good to have you on the show. I know every time we've talked to you, you've knocked it out of the park, so you got a standard you got to reach, all right?
I hope so.
I think your personality just naturally gets us there. But after your last interview, if you could just do me a favor and not talk about breaking your legs, because that shook me up for a couple of days.
Yeah. Okay.
I
flipped it pretty hard Saturday night in Knoxville, so thank goodness I didn't break any bones.
No kidding. Well, I wanted to talk to you about your season so far. If you could, for those that don't get to follow the 24 around very much, can you get us up to date with how your season's going?
Started off great. We won the Ronald Lane Memorial down at East Bay, and that was awesome. One of our favorite races and racetracks, and started off real good. And we got rained out a lot. Came to Knoxville. We're running pretty well the first few nights, and then got into a pretty bad accident 1st of May there, and dinged my head pretty good. I've never been knocked out, believe it or not, and I've never had a concussion before, so had a concussion and severe whiplash, and that slowed us down for a while, and just kind of recovering and doing well. My son Austin's leading the 410-point championship at Knoxville, and my young son Carson is 8th in points, his first year in a 410, and we had climbed back up to 2nd going into last week's All-Star show, so that'd be cool if me and my boy could run 1st or 2nd, but we were leading the All-Star show by about a straightaway and got upside down and tore up a car right before the Nationals. So that stinks. But on the bright side, we were really fast, and I think me and my mechanic Doug and Steve are working real well together, and the rider engines are running great. So pretty happy and excited about what's coming up. I think we're fast enough to win this thing.
I talked to McKenna Haase about it last weekend in the 360 class, and her racing weekly there. She doesn't really feel like it gives her much of an advantage because the talent level that comes in for the 360 Nationals is pretty high, and they could adapt to a track pretty quickly. I would assume it's the same for the 410s, if not more.
Well, actually, Don Long, my good friend, has been a big supporter of sprint car racing around the Knoxville area for a lot of different drivers, not just myself. But he loaned McKenna an engine there for the last 3 or 4 weeks, gave her an engine to run, and she took it out, and that's what I had in last Saturday night in the 360s. That's what I'm going to run at the 360 Nationals. So, but she's right. You don't really get the same exact track that you get, especially for the 410s. It gets a different kind of slick at the 410 Nationals than we really ever see on a weekly show. So, and those outlaw teams are so good. I've ran that before. They get really good at adapting to anything that's thrown at them. They're not really going in with this, thinking that the track's going to be this way or that way. They just adjust to how the track is. So, the Nationals, I think, gets kind of a wet slick to where it doesn't really touch tires, but it'll seal them up really good or really easy if you're not careful. That's something we really don't see on a weekly basis.
You've won the 360 Nationals a couple of times. You're got your eyes set on winning the 410 Nationals this year. What's one big thing you've got to focus on when you're walking into the 410 Nationals if you hope to have a shot?
Well, there's just so many things that have to happen. You have to be, you definitely have to be fast. Obviously, you have to have a great team, and you have to have luck on your side. It doesn't look that way when you look at Donnie Schatz's record. He's been pretty amazing at the Nationals, but for a normal person, you got to be lucky too, and all the other ingredients. You got to be fast and have a great team, and there's just so many things, and that's what makes it a great event. Is every time you hit the track, you have to do your best at all points. Every time you're earning points every time you're on the track, so you got to shoot your best cue, and again, you got to be fast, and things got to go your way, and not make any mistakes. And it's a long race now. It's 50 laps. That's a long time, and that's actually good. Donnie came from the B main and won it 1 year, so it shows that it's possible. So I kind of like that for the fans. It's such a big event. Some of the purists like 30 lapper we used to have back in the day, but it doesn't really matter to me. But it's just an amazing event, top to bottom. I love being a part of it. And, now with the 360 Nationals, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the Capitani Classic on Sunday, our race, the Front Row Challenge on Monday in Oskaloosa. Tuesday, we got the Ultimate Challenge back. And then the 410 Nationals. It's 10 days of, something different basically every night. Amazing racing. You're surrounded by 30,000 friends everywhere you go. So to me, as a sprint car fan, it's the Mecca.
And when you get down to it with the 410s, and I don't care if it's a weekly show at Knoxville or this national race, where the draw is so important because you can't go out and qualify last, and to me, expect to have a whole lot of a chance. Like you said, Schatz won it out of the B, but Schatz is kind of he's one of the exceptions.
Let's throw that
one out. And I know Kyle Larson 2 years ago, I think, came out of the B and got in the top 5, which is impressive also. How big is that draw for you?
Well, it's, my dad used to tell me, if you're fast, you're fast. It doesn't really matter. I said, yeah, but, man, it's nice to draw about number 7 or 8, just to it helps you a little bit. But, there's the other side of it. If you set fast time, you get the most points, or if you qualify well, but you got to start last in the heat race. So then you got to get through that heat race. So, you got to be fast, and everyone there is so fast. That's what makes it difficult. And, back in the day, when I was younger or before that, there was kind of the haves and the have-nots. When I started racing for Darrell Aaron in 1985, our car was 9 years old. We had a 383 iron engine with aluminum heads that he built. Nowadays, everybody's fast. The slowest guy or the guy running 24th in the feature has just as good as equipment as I do, and just as good as equipment as Donnie Schatz has, to be honest with you. So it's made it so much, there's a lot of parity there, and it's so much easier for everybody to buy what the other guy has with the rule package and stuff. There's not a lot of ingenuity like Carl Kinzer had back in the day. It's just tougher to do. But and that actually is another testament to Donnie's dominance, because to dominate with such equal cars is pretty impressive too.
Are you a big fan of the pit stop halfway through?
Like I said earlier, I could go either way on it. If they made it 30 laps again, I don't care. If I'm leading at 30 laps, I hope it's the checkered coming out. And if I'm not leading at 30, I hope it's a 50 lapper.
Yeah, I kind of felt that one coming. As any driver would be. Whatever rule favors me winning, I'm fine with it.
Exactly.
Well, let's talk about your races you got coming up in the next 2 days. While most of us are relaxing on a Sunday, you're getting set for a big 2 days to help raise money for a great event.
Big week for all of us, for me and my whole family. Both my sons race, and then with T-shirt trailers, and then promoting Monday and Tuesday at Oskaloosa, and then I'm racing, every night practically. So it's a lot of hard work, but it's what we love. And Capitani Classic on Sunday night, and the Front Row Challenge on Monday. It's the Sage Fruit Front Row Challenge presented by Musco Lighting. Pretty excited about this year. Just got word from Tony Stewart. He's going to be racing Monday and Tuesday. Casey Kane and Kyle Larson are both going to be racing Monday night. So that's pretty huge for the fans around here. It's big for Oskaloosa, for the Southern Iowa Fair, to get those guys in there, and a lot of big heavy hitters. Every year we're paying $20,000 to win. So I know that's not a lot of money to you guys, but that's a lot of money to me and these other racers out there. So it's called a one night stand for $20,000. So it's one day and someone's going to walk out with $20,000. So we got a lot of amazing cars and drivers coming in. And then we also have the Race Saver 305s on Monday night. And then on Tuesday, we brought Tuesday back. It's the ASCS National cars coming in, and then the Power Eye War Series non-wing cars. We haven't had the non-wing cars for about 5 years. So the fans have really been, on me and my wife about doing that again. I love the non-wing cars. So Casey Schumann and his wife have been doing such a great job promoting that. We brought that War Series in, and it's going to be a super show along with the ASCS National guys on Tuesday. And then, of course, the Knoxville Nationals start the next day. So amazing place. If you haven't been to Southern Iowa Speedway, we've got great campgrounds. There's some hookups there, great bathrooms, showers, that kind of thing. So it's just walking distance to a lot of restaurants and stuff. So Oskaloosa is a fun town.
Well, I think it's really good when you got the NASCAR stars coming in with you. You said Tony and Casey and Kyle, because I think it's really needed in this sport right now is the crossover between the asphalt and the dirt guys.
Well, it really shows, that where their heart's at. I have so much respect for them. They don't have to do it. They're all, frankly, they've all got, they're fairly wealthy, a lot more wealthy than me. They don't have to do it, and they choose to be at a dirt track in Oskaloosa, Iowa on a hot summer night. So that shows you that those guys are true racers, and they do give back to the sport by let people know they're coming and that kind of thing. It builds the dirt track sport. And I truly think I always thought Dale Jr. should go race a sprint car and maybe a closed area where he gets a bunch of us together where they're not going to crash him. And I just think sprint car racing on dirt, that just helps you make you a way better driver. There's so much going on. It changes so much as the night goes on, as the race goes on, and the cars are so fast that I think it's an advantage for Kyle and Casey and those guys that still run dirt when they go back to Cup.
Well, Carl Edwards always said it was a huge deal for him having that dirt background, with the car control.
You bet.
And Kyle Larson just said it when he did that interview with Fox Sports about how he feels like racing on dirt opens up that there are more avenues to be able to get around somebody on a racetrack, even though it's asphalt. There's techniques that you can implement from dirt racing to asphalt that'll help you get by that guy.
Absolutely. Kyle, to watch him in NASCAR is just amazing. Some of the things he does. I think he freaks some of them guys that have been around a while out. He'll run that thing up on the fence before anybody, and he does a lot of different things. And I think it comes from that, his experience on dirt and his talent. He's like a Michael Jordan coming in, too. He's just, kind of one every 10 years talent. He's kind of an amazing person.
Absolutely. Where can people get more information on the Front Row Challenge coming up Monday and Tuesday? And then how can people follow you to keep up to date with what's going on with the Knoxville Nationals?
OxyChallenges.com is our website, and on Facebook, Oxy Challenges, and my Twitter, my Facebook, we're always updating what's going on, how things are going. TerryMcCarl.com and at Terry McCarl. So at Oxy Challenges, seats still available. There'll be seats the day of the show, and we have what we call an infield party pass, where if you get there before 6, if it doesn't fill up, you can drive your car, your truck in the infield and party. You got a lot of tailgating going on in there. That the rigs are outside the back straightaway, so you can still see from the infield. A lot of people love to go in there and throw the football around and grill and that kind of thing, or you can sit in the stands, and like I said, there'll be seats available the day of the show, or you can call now and get those reserved.
All right, I appreciate your time, buddy. Good luck. We'll talk to you this coming Saturday at the Knoxville Nationals. We'll swing down and when we're in the pits on Saturday night.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Right. And again, that was Terry McCarl, driver of the number 24, T-Mac Terry
The
McCarl.
original T-Mac.
Yeah.
Got a couple of them out there now, but he's the original.
Nicknames are a dime a dozen. And the thing that irritates me about nicknames is 90% of them make no sense to the driver.
As long as you don't make them, give them to yourself, I'm good.
No, I wouldn't do that. Again, he was talking about how to get more information on that. OSKYChallenge.com. That's OSKY challenge.com. Challenges.com. OSKYchallenges.com. Yeah, I was just reading that to make sure it was inaugural event 1996. Make sure it was the right website. OSKYchallenges.com. We'll share a link to it on the Facebook page. That way you guys can get over there. You know, to go over there and watch Tony, Kyle, and Kane, and then all the other guys that are going to be involved in it, that might be a good thing for me to take a couple of days away on vacation.
You know, you've got vacation time. I don't get that.
That's true. Are you kidding? Your life is a vacation.
Not hardly. I was not on vacation at 11 o'clock this morning. Let's put it that way.
Well, it's 9 o'clock in the morning right now.
Okay, 11 o'clock when we recorded this.
You can tell we've been doing live shows a lot lately because we're a little shaky on the format for how to speak. But
what have we done the last 5 weeks in a row live, I think?
It was pretty much all of July, yeah. And then a couple in June. Enough. That's. I'm ready for a 1 week break, and then we're back at it next weekend. We're going to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 3. We're going to talk about a couple of NASCAR news and notes. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
We all have that coworker that runs their mouth off at how great they are. They shot a 5 under par, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, bench press 375, brah. Wouldn't you love to shut them up by schooling them at Joe's Karting? Council Bluffs' premier indoor karting track, professionally designed so each corner is your opportunity to embarrass your coworker. Call Buddy for your next company outing at 712-256-5278. Joe's Karting, white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue next to AMC 17.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Hi, this is Brad Keselowski, 2012 NASCAR Sprint Cup champion, and you're listening to The Front Stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch, heading into turn number 3, and it's time to talk a couple of the NASCAR news and notes that have been circulating around the headlines for the last couple of weeks, and we really haven't got much of a chance to talk much about it. Casey Kane sees the potential in returning to Levine? Which one was it?
I think they go with Levine.
Okay, Levine Family Racing. And there's been conversation about them possibly leaving Chevy and moving over to Toyota. More bad news for Chevy. They've lost a couple of teams in the recent years. Toyota did end up losing technically a team as the 77 team that Eric Jones was racing, ended up going over to Joe Gibbs Racing for this year. But Chevy continuing to lose teams.
Well, Chevy's got problems in their camp. Richard Childress is wanting the Chevy teams to get together and sort this Camaro out, and he's not getting any help.
Yeah.
GM says the teams don't want to do that, and I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that. If you think you found something, you don't have anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like the Chevys are out there destroying it. They're not.
You're absolutely right. They've definitely struggled with this new Camaro, and we saw the same thing with Toyota last year. They missed out on their when they released their new body. They struggled with it. You've talked about it time and time again. The first half of the season, the Toyotas were just struggling. And we expected that. You called it at the beginning of the season. You said, I think Chevy's going to struggle the first part of the season. To see them continue to struggle is really strange.
Well, and they're, like I said, they just don't want to listen to Richard Childress and all get on the same page and help each other out to sort this thing. I don't care when you do this unless you were, Gibbs and his satellite team, at Furniture Row. Mm-hmm. They got together and everybody was on the same page because it profited everybody to help out.
Right.
With the Chevy camp, even if they did get together, I could see your bigger teams holding a little bit back. Hendricks holding something back.
Right.
I mean, it's obviously the way Stuart Haas came out swinging with the Fords that, people help them,
Mm-hmm. Or they found it. I mean, let's face it. They may not have gotten help from any other Ford camp because we don't see a lot of other Fords running up front. Well, you'd see Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski up there more consistently, and on top of that, it's just Kevin Harvick at Stewart-Haas that's really lighting the world on fire.
But they don't have a new body. I mean, they got up to speed very, very quickly, which means somebody was helping them.
Yeah, Ford probably did give them a little bit more information with their agreement, and maybe that's the beginning of when everyone was so surprised why Tony Stewart left Chevy because he's such a Chevy guy. Maybe that was it. Maybe it was the infighting that he said, none of the other Chevy teams are working with us to help each other out. We'll share information if you share with us. To heck with you guys, we're going to Ford where all the Ford teams work together.
Well, and I still think it was more the fact that he was hooked up with Hendrick, and Hendrick was going to, hold him over the barrel after they won the title and stuff.
Yeah.
Said, look, you did that with our chassis, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So I do believe that was a big thing in there. And like we also talked about before, is he went over to Ford where he became the top dog. You know, he wasn't,
or at least not second fiddle to Hendrick. Because that's pretty much what Chevy is. Anybody that comes over to Chevy is, at best, second fiddle to Hendrick.
At best, like you said. And I don't think some of the Ford teams, with the fact that they've got supposedly a new body style coming along next year, I don't think the Ford teams are spending a ton of money on R&D on what they've already been racing for 3 or 4 years. Because if they haven't tried it by now, it probably ain't out there.
Yeah. And, I want to bring up this one. It's not a part of the news and notes, but something we touched on last weekend, and I was completely blown away that this was allowed to happen. But several of the major teams have purchased the OSS system from the company that built it and designed it for NASCAR. I was really shocked that the teams were allowed to purchase it.
Well, unless NASCAR built it.
But the thing is,
that'd be the only way they could control the sales on it.
No, you absolutely could. Now, 100% no. But NASCAR could easily put a rule in there that says you are not allowed to have a laser system at your shop or to be used to set your cars.
Well,
they could absolutely put it in there because it's their game, it's their rules. They're allowed. They can do that.
But then why? How would they expect you to be anywhere close to ready when you showed up the track without the proper equipment?
Same thing they did at the beginning of the season. You were allowed to come down to the R&D system center and use ours at your leisure.
Well, I'd be willing to bet, it's not at their leisure because you'd have 40 teams wanting to come down there a week at a time.
That's exactly what they had.
No, they didn't.
The first 2 weeks, they were packed. They said that there wasn't a 10-minute window.
You said at the leisure. That means I'm Rick Hendrick. I'm going to be in here for a month.
Well,
then nobody else is in there.
Okay, you're able to schedule and come down at any time you need to. You need to schedule it ahead of time, and you're allowed to bring your cars down.
Yeah,
and test them.
That thing would have been booked up for 6 months, and it would have been by the top couple teams and nobody else.
Yeah,
it was mandatory that you brought the car down and get it through the laser inspection station before you could ever get an okay to have it show up at the racetrack.
Yeah,
big difference between that and what you're saying at your leisure, because that would never happen.
Okay, you're taking the leisure out of what I meant it for, and I don't blame you. That's the word. That's what you took it as. I'm saying that it makes more sense to me for NASCAR to say you're not allowed to purchase this system because now that these teams have it, we know that those cars are going through there 1,000 times. As many times as they need to start tweaking on it to figure out how to manipulate the rules. This is what teams do, right?
Right.
This is their job. They've got to find a way to beat the tech system to make their car 1/10, 2/10 faster, even 1/2 faster.
Well, then they should have started 30 years ago and not let the team have templates.
I'm agreeing. I'm agreeing with you. This is where I like when dirt tracks, when a team gets when they get caught with something. They tell them what they got caught with, but they don't tell them exactly all the details. Because when you start talking about how they got caught and how they found it and exactly what it was, then another team is going to start to figure out how to not get caught next time.
The only place they're doing that's with tires.
You're okay with them not stopping the teams from having the system in their shop?
Absolutely.
Because I think it opens up the availability, quite frankly, for teams to find that gray area that fans are so frustrated with. And it's not necessarily if fans are frustrated with Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, and Martin Truex Jr. winning all these races. It would be incredibly degrading to the sport if we come to find out that Kevin Harvick's been doing something completely illegal the entire time.
Well, if it's passing the system, it's not illegal.
as a tech official, I understand you're not breaking the law until you get caught. But at the end of the day,
you're not breaking the law until you break the law.
The conversation you had, can't remember, it was with our winners, Paul and Holly down at Iowa, and you were talking about how the things that Chad Knaus was doing with his 48 car at Daytona, and they didn't catch him for 4 years, and they finally caught him 1 year, and they hit him with a harder than normal penalty because they knew that he'd been doing it for so many years, and they finally found a way to catch him.
Well, but that was, in my total complete opinion, that was NASCAR's fault.
Right.
And as I have seen just from working with some of these guys, some of the inspectors they have no inkling and no right to be called an inspector. I'm dead serious.
I'm not doubting you. I'm kind of like, because I completely agree. I think there's dirt track officials that they just don't pay much attention to 2 feet out in front of their nose.
Well, I know one official, and he's still an official, and he's a decent enough guy, but the first time I met him was at the meetings up there in Conover at the Tech Center. The night before, he was sitting in a bar having a beer and got offered a job to be a NASCAR tech inspector. He didn't know the difference between a carburetor and a wheel.
Yeah.
That guy's got no business. The guy's got no business being a tech inspector.
You put carburetors on the rear rims.
There you go.
These guys.
And again, that was pre-fuel injection and everything.
Yeah.
This is like 2002. But, another guy got hired. He was the manager at the local Piggly Wiggly in North Carolina, grocery store chain. And believe that's dead serious. That's the name of the grocery store chain back on the East Coast, Piggly Wiggly. And he was a manager at the grocery store and got offered a job to be the tire guy. So I'm flabbergasted, and it's probably just me and my crazy way of thinking. NASCAR's got to get a handle on this. Fans have been talking about it for years. They're sick and tired of penalty Wednesdays. And it feels like with teams having this OSS system, it opens the door for the teams to get a lot more sly with the way things they're doing that the officials that we're talking about take weeks to get caught up on. But now the officials aren't doing anything.
Yeah.
All the officials doing is looking at that computer, and the computer tells you what's wrong.
And so, you know how the officials found out about that whole quarter panel thing with changing the color schemes?
Somebody job time.
It was another team that doesn't have one of these OSS systems went and leaned into NASCAR and said, hey, these guys are doing this. We're seeing it. And the best official NASCAR has in the pits every single weekend is the 38, 39 other teams that are there, and especially the back ones that are going, come on, you're seeing that, right? We didn't catch that. Thank you. We'll get that now.
Just like weekly racing.
Right, absolutely.
And that was the deal, like you mentioned, Chad Knaus's thing. Chad Knaus's car, in the order that they did the templates, passed every time.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until somebody sat there and watched them do what they were doing and paid attention to what they were doing that said, hey, look at that car flexing.
Moving on through the headlines. We'll touch on this one real briefly because I don't know if touch on is a really good term for that, but civil trial for Greg Biffle is underway. If you haven't heard, Greg's in a little bit of hot water. Now, whether it's true or not, I'm going to relay the information that we have. Greg Biffle's now ex-wife and her mother are suing the former Roush Fenway driver for having installed hidden cameras in the bedrooms and the bathrooms, recorded them, and showed them to other people.
Well, it was a security feature, which, if I'm in a $2 million mansion, I'm probably going to have security cameras.
I'm going to have security cams in a lot of my rooms, especially if I'm a former driver that has memorabilia and items like that are easily stolen.
Now, if he happened to catch some compromising things with his wife and her mother, I'm at a stretch there on what's going on. But obviously, when the honeymoon was over and the marriage fell apart, I can almost see him going ahead and saying, hey, guys, look at this stuff.
Yeah, that's where you get into the illegal part. Now, it's not illegal to have accidentally recorded them. I don't know the rules for in the bathroom because I know for businesses they're not allowed to have security cameras in the bathroom. That's a violation. But when you start showing them to people, you're going to get into a little bit of hot water.
Yeah, not without a release.
So coming up Tuesday morning, Biffle will testify his side of the story, and then the whole thing will proceed. So kind of a weird story there.
Yeah, it is. But what's really bothers me about it is now this is the second time in a year where something like this. The other one was Rick Crawford and kids kind of jumping out at you. And I mean, I've met Rick, and you see him every weekend, but was really surprised by that too.
Yeah, let's just state this for the clear fact. 100 years ago, it was pretty easy to get away with things. Nowadays, you're going to get caught. All right, moving on to the next subject. This one killed me when I saw this come across again, bad choice of words coming off the previous conversation. This one just absolutely entertained me when it came off the wires. NASCAR is considering outlawing the windshield wipers at road courses if the forecast says there is a less than high likely chance of rain. Some competitors have complained to NASCAR that some of these teams, and I remember Martin Truex Jr. running it at Sonoma. There's a picture of A.J. Allmendinger running his in Turn 3 at Sonoma earlier this year, and it's a windshield wiper that sits straight at 12 o'clock, right in the middle of the windshield. And some teams have complained that this could be an aero advantage for the drivers that do this.
Oh, I'm sure.
And as much as I would like to disagree, it very well could be. I mean, when they're swinging through the corners left and right, that windshield wiper could be a form of stability as the air is moving across the windshield.
Yep, it is. It'd be, just like putting a big fin up there, And granted, you're only talking about an inch, but Chase Elliott last year got busted for a piece of tape, the thickness of tape on top of the spoiler.
Right. Absolutely.
So I know darn well that those cars were put into a wind tunnel with that wiper on and with that wiper moving. They tested it both ways to see exactly what it did. But
and this only became a thing a couple of years ago when NASCAR said that we would entertain the idea of running a road course in the rain because it's slower speeds. There's less likelihood of a car sliding into the wall and wrecking. And so teams were allowed to start putting windshield wipers on at their discretion. Now
with rain tires.
Right. Now NASCAR is looking at going back and saying, okay, unless there's rain in the area, we're not going to allow you to have those windshield wipers.
Yeah, you're going to have the windshield wiper in, you're going to have the motor in. You're going to have all the electrical in.
Yep.
Only thing you're not going to have on the car is the wiper. You're just going to have that stud sticking out there in the cowl area. And then, you can take and put that wiper on. It's probably got a set screw on it or maybe one bolt, or one nut, just like a car does. It's nothing if it looks like it's going to rain halfway through. You put that thing on in a matter of about 15 seconds. Mm-hmm. So otherwise, they won't be allowed to wear it.
Hey, our buddies down at racingboys.com down in Kansas City?
Sure.
We run into them every once in a while. They got a pretty good exclusive. They got their hands on a copy of a document NASCAR distributed during a July 11th meeting for the Rules Committee titled Proposed 2019 Event Implementations. I had to slow down because that's a big word with lots of syllables. According to the agenda, fans would get their first look at the All-Star Aero package at Las Vegas Motor Speedway on March 3rd, followed by Auto Club Speedway on March 17th. Continuing on to the Texas Motor Speedway on March 31st, Kansas Speedway would be May 11th. Michigan, October 20th. Charlotte, the earlier race on the full track would be up for. So there's several tracks. I believe 14 tracks in all that they would implement the aero package that they tested at the All-Star race. So the aero package that fans loved and drivers hated could be coming to a track near you as soon as March 3rd at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
And not all fans loved it, by the way.
You're right.
But, I mean, we did.
Yeah.
But we look at the racing a little bit differently than a lot of people do.
If only people looked at it like us.
And the mechanic people that I know, I mean, some car chiefs and some crew chiefs and stuff like that in the Cup world and stuff really enjoyed it also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Elliott Sadler's not a big fan of it, though.
No. One we talked about last weekend, Bubba Wallace has signed an extension with the 43 of Richard Petty Motorsports, so he will remain in that car for 2019. Looks like it's just a one-year deal to continue to have him in that 43 car.
Does it say when he signed it?
July 28th, so just a couple days ago.
Okay, so it was after. So he wasn't celebrating going down into turn one.
No. Here's an interesting one, talking about some of the deals being done. Now, we had heard stories that all the teams, Stewart-Haas Racing has said that they expect all 4 of their Cup drivers to be back for 2019, but there continues to be rumbling that Kurt Busch could be out. That was a tweet from Adam Stern, who is a reporter in the NASCAR world. So Stewart-Haas Racing insists that all 4 of their Cup teams are going to be back in 2019. All 4 of their Cup drivers are going to be back in 2019, although Kurt Busch could be out. Richard Childress Racing, who Kurt has been linked to as a possible driver for them in 2019, has said that is highly unlikely. So more kind of back and forth with Kurt Busch and this deal of, is he going to race the 41? Is he out at Stewart-Haas Racing? Where's he going? Yada, yada, yada.
He obviously wants to stay in the sport, and he's still competitive.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely doesn't deserve a pay cut.
No.
Because he won Daytona a year ago, didn't he? Wasn't it? Last year he won Daytona? Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's obviously still competitive. I think
he's good for a couple of wins a year. 1, maybe 2, possibly 3. So there's that. And so he's probably a playoff driver. If he doesn't qualify through wins, he's probably going to get in through points.
Yeah, he's in there on points pretty much unless something really drastic happens. But when you talk about playoff points and drastic, had a little snafu in the Truck Series this past weekend at Pocono.
Yeah, with Noah Gragson, right?
Yep.
He was not medically cleared to race.
Yeah, and I thought it was just a flu situation. I didn't think it was anything more than that. And that's got to be like a first, that somebody couldn't race because they had the flu.
Apparently he collapsed on pit road. That's what spurred the whole thing. They then made him go to the medical center, and the medical officials said, we cannot put enough fluids in this boy to feel comfortable that he won't pass out on the track. No. And at that point, NASCAR came down and said, you're done.
But they did go ahead and allow him still to be, qualified for their playoffs, which, again, they're kind of stretching something a little bit, I think, when they keep making all these exceptions like that.
Well, not at all. NASCAR has said from the very start, we will allow medical exemptions. That's a medical exemption.
To me, a medical exemption is because of an accident that you had participating, which he didn't have. And it's a good thing, Don't get me wrong with that.
Yeah.
But I don't think just because you got the flu, but again, I'm also disagreeing, is I don't think they should have taken him out of the race truck. If he wants to go out there and thinks he can race, because he went out and practiced.
Well, and the problem is, and I do see this as a problem, even though we've championed this mentality of, in the past, the guy's going out there and racing. What was it, Ricky Rudd, that had a concussion so bad they taped his eyes open?
Yep, had to tape his eyes open.
You're not just taking your safety into risk anymore. And if it was just that, then I think NASCAR would say, okay, no, it is your choice. If you want to risk it, you go out there. But he could end up killing somebody else, or he could end up killing a fan, or he could end up killing somebody in the infield, one of the officials, one of the over-the-wall guys. You can't risk somebody being severely hurt, and certainly can't risk somebody losing their life and allow him to go race. And the way that you sit him out with comfort is to say, you're sitting down for this race. We're sorry you're going to lose the points, but you're still eligible for the playoffs. You still have to race your way in. I've had this conversation with 100 people about Kyle Busch. Now, they're so mad that NASCAR let him in. NASCAR didn't give him a free pass to the playoffs. Kyle Busch went out there and earned his way into the playoffs with 10 less races than the other field had to do it. Kyle Busch earned his way into that race more than anybody else did. NASCAR didn't give it to him, and NASCAR's not giving Noah Gragson a spot into the playoffs. They're simply saying, we will not exempt you from the playoffs because of the rule that says you must qualify for every race in order to be in the playoffs. We will allow you to miss this race, but you still have to race your way in.
Yeah, and it's something that we're going to have to agree to disagree, because I don't like that. I just don't like it when they do one-off stuff, and we've had that talk many times.
Yeah, I hear you. And I'll just say this again, just because I can't allow you to get the last word in. This isn't a one-off thing. They gave it to Denny Hamlin when he had that eye issue at I think it was Auto Club Speedway about 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, again, but the eye incident was due to a crash.
No, it wasn't. It was pre-race on that Sunday before he was able to go in there, and he went into the medical center, and he could not. His eye was dripping so bad. Went into the medical center, and they removed a shard of metal that had gotten into his eye at some point in time, and scratched his eye so bad that he couldn't keep his eye open. And NASCAR said, "You're sitting down this race. We're not going to allow you to race."
I'm not recalling that, but
you were not happy at that time either.
Well, that I believe.
You're staying consistent. I get you on that. And then good news coming out of the Wendy Venturini family. She was hurt several weeks back at Sonoma when they were getting ready. She is a reporter for PRN, I believe. The Performance Racing Network, and she was out running on Sunday morning doing her exercise stuff, and she was struck by a car. She suffered skull fracture, concussion, and she was hospitalized for several days while she was being tended to, and she is doing much better. She has returned home, and she is in great spirits and feeling much better. She's hoping to be back in about 4 to 6 weeks when doctors clear her to head back to the track.
Is she going to be eligible for the playoffs?
NASCAR has yet to release if they are going to give her a medical exemption. We're going to take a break. We'll come back at turn number 4. We'll get you set for today's race at Watkins Glen here on the Front Stretch.
Hey, look at that. You're sitting on your couch playing Halo, Madden, or NASCAR while your friends are at Joe's Karting. Each lap is an adrenaline-filled, heart-pumping, white-knuckle experience that you can only get at the Metro's largest indoor karting track. Eco-friendly Honda engines rip you around their professionally designed road course at breakneck speeds. Can you reach the 14-second lap bracket? There's only one way to find out. Put the controller down and get to Joe's Karting, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs next to Quaker Steak and Lube.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
This is Jack the Gasman Dover, and you're listening to the Front Stretch.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch. How to get to turn number 4. Just a real quick one as we get you set for today's race at Watkins Glen. I'll also preview real quickly. We're getting the final details put on the final Crewman for a Day contest down at Kansas Speedway for the October race weekend, which is an elimination race, a playoff race. So a lot of teams are going to be hanging it out there to get a win, qualify for the next round, to make sure they secure for the final round. And we've seen some pretty good fireworks the last couple of years down there as it's been a playoff race.
Yep. We were excited when we knew it was coming, and we got the scoop a little bit before everybody else, and it has not disappointed.
We're hoping to make that announcement in a couple of weeks. It sounds like the first race for that 5-week contest is going to be September 2nd at Darlington, but that could move and shift just a little bit. We're working with the teams to try to find a best-case scenario for everybody, so we'll get back to you on that. But if you want to get involved in that, listen, here's the deal. We are going to do it. We just have to figure out what team we're doing it with. I hate to say it because it sounds a little demeaning, but our fallback team is going to be Starcom Racing. They did a fantastic job with us in May. The fans, the winners were over the moon. They were great. They did awesome. But we would like to be able to offer a different team if we're able to partner up with one. So we're just waiting to figure that out. 2nd through 5th place is going to win tickets to the races as always. And then, so it's free to enter thanks to Rick Havenridge of Wealth Partners, a financial advisory practice of Ameriprise.
Just got to be 18 years of age, and that's the track's rules, not ours.
Absolutely. Send us an email, frontstretchradio@gmail.com. Frontstretchradio@gmail.com. Just say, I want to be a part of the contest. I'll put you into a certain little group that then we'll get an email blast when it's ready to get signed up for. Looking at Watkins Glen today, Martin Truex Jr., not typically known as a road course racer. When I think of road course racers, I'm thinking A.J. Allmendinger, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Jamie Mack's usually pretty good. Let's see, I said Kyle Busch. Clinton Boyer's been pretty good at the road courses. But Martin Truex Jr. ends up getting the win last year, finished 2nd in Stage 1, 2nd in Stage 2, ended up winning the race after starting in the 3rd spot. So he stayed up front the entire day.
Well, and he won Sonoma this year, so it's not like he can't drive on a road course.
Right.
But
led 3 different times for 24 laps. Other race leaders, Daniel Suarez won Stage 2, finished 3rd on the day. Kyle Busch won Stage 1, finished 7th on the day after finishing 9th in Stage 2. So Kyle kind of bounced around a little bit, but he's usually a pretty good lock for today's race.
Well, if I remember right, he had a little trouble. I think he had a little contact. Either that, because for him to drop that much, there had to be something. I don't know if he had a pit road penalty maybe, but for some reason I'm thinking that Kyle Busch had some contact with somebody and had to maybe make an unscheduled pit stop to do some repairs. And, that's not much of a stretch to think Kyle had some contact with somebody. So.
Yeah, no, and especially at at Watkins Glen. We saw that a couple of years ago. Him and Brad Keselowski got together coming out of the, turn 1, coming up that S, and they made contact, and I think it was Casey Kane that sneaked by.
Yep, they kind of used each other up a little bit.
Terrible English there. So the results for last year's race at Watkins Glen, Martin Truex Jr. gets the win. Matt Kenseth in the 20 car finishes 2nd. Daniel Suarez 3rd. Denny Hamlin 4th. Clint Boyer 5th. Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, A.J. Allmendinger, and Eric Jones round out the top 10 in that order. Bad days for Dale Earnhardt Jr., who finished tail end Charlie. Let's see. Jimmy Johnson, who finished 29th. Austin Dillon, 26th. Joey Logano, 24th. Kyle Larson, 23rd. Kyle could definitely use a better points day than he had at Pocono and a better race day, so hopefully he doesn't bring home a 23rd finish again. He started second, and he finished on the lead lap, so he must have just had a bad car.
Yeah, well, and again, he could have had a pit road penalty. I mean, there's so many things that can happen there.
Yeah.
And
29 cars finished on the lead lap.
Out of how many? How many started that race
37.
last year? So
same number of cars that are registered today. 37 cars set for today's race at Watkins Glen. Coverage is on NBC. Again, it's on the major network, NBC, not NBCSN. Coverage starts at about 12:30 or 1 o'clock. All picks are due by 1:30. Make sure you get your picks in on time. And as always, make sure you pay attention to the emails, because if there is rain in the area, NASCAR has been known to move the start times up to accommodate for that. So you'll always want to take a listen to the email if you're part of the Pick'ems contest.
Yeah, they kind of do away with the pre-race show and move it up an hour if they can, such as New Hampshire.
Yep.
So,
all right, that's going to do it for us today. We'll do it again next weekend, where we're going to sit down with hey, you know what? We're going to be at Knoxville next weekend for the 410 Nationals.
No.
I'm excited about that. We're going to go over on Saturday, try to sit down with a couple of drivers. We'll get you interviews from at least the top 3. We'll try to get top 5 finishers and a couple of local people and get interviews with them, sit down and talk to them. I know that I think Jack Dover's going over there. He might have a 410. It's kind of back and forth if he's got one. I know Cody Ledger's going to go over there and race in the 410s, so we'll see a couple of local guys over there. Our best bud, Brian Brown's going to be over there. He's always good there. And
your best bud. He's not a problem with me.
He's been lights out at the Knoxville Weekly Racing, so we'll see how he could continue, how he could transfer that into the 410 Nationals. So we'll be over there. Then we'll do the show live on Sunday morning as we drive back Saturday night. No, we're going to stay there on Saturday night. So we'll drive back Sunday after the show, and we'll recap all the race. We'll talk about that stuff. We'll get you set for next weekend's race in Michigan, and we'll get you set for Bristol coming up on Saturday night, next Saturday night. So busy show next weekend, as we'll be live from Knoxville Raceway, and then again we'll get that Crewman for a Day details out to you coming up soon. For Dirk Houston, I'm Dan Taylor. That's going to do it for us today on the Front Stretch. We appreciate everybody listening, and we'll do it again next weekend. This has been The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. Joe'sKarting.com for more information.
The official watering hole of the Front Stretch has you covered any day of the week with the best wings, great burgers, and amazing steaks. Each weekday from 4 to 6 is happy hour, featuring $1 off draft and well drinks plus $4 Luberitas. Mondays are kids' night. Tuesdays are all-you-can-eat wings for $12.95, and the lube even delivers to the Council Bluffs area. Like Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs on Facebook for a full list of weekly events.
Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page, where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.